I'm John Kelly. I'm a regional affiliate manager for NCWIT, and what I do is I mostly work with volunteers in 25 different regions across the United States, everywhere from most of California, excluding San Diego, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, North and South Dakota, Arizona, Utah, northern New Mexico, southern New Mexico, Georgia, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. So I'm everywhere. My life is a little crazy with time zones, but I work with volunteers in each one of those communities to help build a community of women, to make sure that you don't feel alone, that you make sure that you know, hey, there are other women in this community who are interested in computing and technology, they're interested in tech, and then largely connecting you to a national organization. So more than just inside of your own region and area, but a national organization that is dedicated to building that community. And Kate, I'll let you introduce yourself.
So my name is Kate Pickle. I've been doing work to get young women involved in STEM careers for over 20 years around the nation. Started with first 10, 12 years ago, I guess, through Girl Scouts, and now work with John at NCWIT, where I oversee a grant program so that young women who've been recognized in our program, i.e. these two young ladies over here, or college students that apply to be in the community, which we'll talk about, can get grants to do K-12 education, computer science programming, with other girls and share their passion and interest. So I work all over the nation, and I work closely with John and our affiliates.
Definitely. And so for those who don't know what NCWIT is, it's a coalition. It's a coalition of universities, nonprofits, businesses, and alliance members that are all working together to increase the meaningful participation of women and girls in computing by equipping them with research-based techniques and working on recruiting, retaining, and advancing women in the workplace. Because what we want to do here at NCWIT is we don't want to change the girl. There's a lot of organizations that tell you to lean in and build some more confidence. We want to change the system. We don't want to change the girl. We want to change the system and make sure that we have not only more recognition and helping you connect you to resources like job opportunities, internships, and scholarships, but also that we make sure that we tackle the other side of it and make sure that we change the culture. So we have organizations inside of NCWIT that will go into any one of our 500 universities and colleges and will work with their department to make sure that they have a more inclusive environment for both students, faculty, and staff. We'll go with inside of our Workforce Alliance members, which we have down here just some of our lifetime and strategic and investment partners. We work with over 1,100 businesses, and they work with us to recruit some of our AIC award recipients as well as to help change the culture inside of their own companies. So we'll go in there and work with their diversity training teams and do unconscious bias trainings for everyone to recognize biases inside of their own selves. We'll also work and make sure that we change their job ads so that they're more inclusive to women and minorities, so that they apply. And so we've been really holding this mission to not change the girl, but help change the system, make sure that we make it a more inclusive environment, one that recognizes everyone and allows everyone that same opportunity to succeed.
And that's really important. I mean, you can think about a number of innovations that have happened. We've talked today to some folks about the telecom industry, and when voice recognition first came out, oftentimes female voices were not understood because there hadn't been any women on the design team or in the testing teams to do that. Well, that's kind of a problem, right? And so now we actually have a young woman that we work with who's doing research at MIT about facial recognition and how facial recognition often doesn't recognize very dark-skinned people, doesn't recognize their gender, doesn't recognize their face, even if they're in the database. And think about all the things that we use for facial recognition, including your iPhone now, right? And so how do we eliminate those biases in the software and in the technology we're creating? And the answer to that is that we need people at the table. So we need to have women at the table. We need to have people from all cultures and abilities and diversities at that table to think about what is that process and who is using this technology and how does it work for all of them. So that's a part of what we do.
And so how we do it. So as we mentioned, we're made up of a lot of different alliances, everything from our academic alliances, which is mostly our colleges and universities, or K-12 alliances, which can be everything from schools to nonprofits to anyone involved in the K through 12 space, educators, PSTA. Our Affinity Group Alliance, which anyone with more of a direction towards what we're doing as well as our Entrepreneurial Workforce Alliance, so any for-profit industries that really want to get involved in making sure we have a big force in tech. So what we do is we try to do three things. One, convene, equip, and unite. Convene, we host meetups in every single one of our 76 affiliates across the United States to give you a place to come together. I just came back from southern Utah, which you normally think of, oh, here's a very rural area that doesn't have a ton of people. They had over 100 AIC award recipients, all high school women who are doing phenomenal things in tech and building them together. And a lot of times they said, oh, not only am I the only girl in my computer science class, I'm the only student who's interested in computer science in southern Utah, because they're very, very rural, remote communities there. But we have just a team of volunteers that are really good at going to each and every one of these schools, knocking on the doors, reaching out to the educators, reaching out to the parents and saying, hey, come together for this event, apply for this award, we want to get you in this community, and showing that that's a really, really big way to make a really big impact. And I just seeing some of them just say like, wow, I'm in a 300-person event for all women in tech in southern Utah. This is not the Bay Area or Seattle or Los Angeles. This is a rural community that's really coming together to support their women in tech. And seeing that can be really, really powerful, and being a part of that. And so first we like to convene. We like to bring everyone together. And then next we like to do is equip. So we've got some resources over here that we'll talk a little bit more in a minute, but we like to equip every one of our members and our alliance members with research-based facts. We have about 20 social scientists, all with PhDs, on our, to evaluate every resource that we do, every program that we're doing, everything we put out there to make sure, one, that it's inclusive and that we're not marginalizing any populations, but two, that it's working, that this is actually creating the change in tech that we want to see. And so that's a really big thing, is we equip people with the numbers, the facts, because knowing the problem is the only way you get to the solution. Identifying where we're at, exactly where that gender gap is, and making sure that we have everyone equipped with the facts and resources and tools. So we'll go a little bit more in depth, but we have a lot of different resources that equip you with that information. 10 ways to engage underrepresented students in computing. Just how do I reach out to those marginalized populations, not just white women, but black women and Latinas and women of color that really have been marginalized in tech as well. 10 ways to be a male advocate. So telling the men throughout your life, you know, we can't just have the fight for women's justice on just women alone. We need to make sure that men also take on that and become part of that solution. And 10 ways how they can do it. Number one is listening, which is, okay, that's easy enough. Like we can get them to start listening if that would solve a lot of the problems. And so we like to equip, and would you like to go for Unites? I feel like I've been talking for a train wreck of words for a moment.
That's fine. Basically, the Unite is about uniting all these organizations behind a common cause, bringing them together to work together and leverage each other's resources. And so collectively, then, we can have a bigger impact and start to move the needle on a lot of these issues. So that was so easy, right, John?
Oh, yeah, that was.
So as John mentioned, we have over 160 research-based resources that are available. I see a lot of different folks in this group here. So we have research one-pager summaries about what the research is saying about best practices in different areas, whether it is about hiring practices or recruitment practices or retaining women, things like that. We have boxes that if you're doing outreach or you're a teacher, that you can actually get these boxes that are they put together the curriculum for like e-textiles, and we've got one about using, it's called CS Unplugged, so teaching about computer coding without actually having computers, which can be really helpful sometimes. And we also have, you know, supervision kits in there for if you're a manager about how you better supervise in general, and listening and asking questions and supporting and recruiting women and retaining them. So those are kits of resources. We have what's called talking point cards. I think, do you have one of those, John? Okay, so these are just really small cards. They're about the size of those the top 10 ways. And basically, that gives you the quick facts to have a conversation about how families should support their girls in computer science, or what computer science major might be right for me. We have several workbooks. Those are mostly for our entrepreneurship and our Workforce Alliance folks, the top 10 ways that he talked about, and then a number of reports, both at length if you want to read all the research and methodology and the data, but also summarized into small pamphlets so you can share that information. So all of this is available for free on our website. You can download all of it. You can print all of it. If you're doing large events and you want hard copies of it, email us, and we often can get that out to you for free.
And it's really great sometimes to have a resource to start a conversation. I don't know if it's on your teams or if it's at your school or even among your friends. There's sometimes are really great ways to make sure everyone's on the same page. And we also have about 2 or 3 dozen of these available in Spanish as well. So if any of you have any second language learners or Spanish speakers on your team, we also have resources for them as well.
So this is the core of what John and I spend most of our time doing, which is working on this journey here. And so I'm going to circle back to the Aspire IT program, because really that doesn't start until you start over here. And so the Aspirations in Computing Recognitions program is a program for high school girls who have an interest in computer science. It is not about what you have done in computer science, although most of you in here have probably done way more than I ever thought of doing in computer science, but it's about your interest in technical fields. You apply for that award. We give out over 3,000 recognitions annually to both at a national level and the local level, like John was talking about, in individual states. And that gets you into a community, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. It also will give you access to us introducing you to faculty members, to our Workforce Alliance members, opportunities for scholarships, internships, things like that. And the reason I said we start here is because those that are in this community can then apply for these grants, which is the one that I manage, to then do outreach as well, either in the summer or academic year. And so beyond that, we also recognize educators, both informal and formal educators, so your coaches or informal educators that support you. We recognize their work to get more women thinking about these careers and into classes, and minorities as well. And then we also have a collegiate level where if you are majoring or minoring in a computer science related field, you can fill out a form and you can become a member of the community that we'll talk about. You can also get scholarships through there by applying for our collegiate award. And so there's a number of ways to engage there and get support as you go through your college career.
And what's really great about a lot of these opportunities, especially for the high school award and the collegiate award, is that it gets you into the NC-WIT community. And that really connects you to one another, as well as anyone who's won this award in the past, anyone who's studying it currently in college. And that can be the most useful tool. When you get this award, you get a lovely swag bag, which I see Summer brought today. You get a nice trophy. You get to go to a great ceremony. But the most powerful thing that you get is that connection, those networking opportunities. Part of when you win the NC-WIT award for high school is you get into a secret Facebook group, which I've never found a way to say cool, but it is cool. There's a lot of opportunities where people post everything from stories to asking advice to offering advice to internships at their own companies. Any past former AIC award recipients or collegiate members really getting involved and really helping the next generation of young women succeed and helping one another. And I think that can be some of the most powerful way to see that coming up through your Facebook feed each and every day and just seeing just all the dozens of stories like, oh, here's how I was able to overcome this, or hey, I'm also experiencing this, and recognizing that you're not alone. And so that's one really major aspect of that really connects you to the broader mission of NC-WIT, of increasing that meaningful participation.
And that community is also really valuable. The title of this is talking about underrepresented folks, and it's really valuable because those that are in rural communities or lower income communities that don't have the mentors available to them, this is a way to connect when they don't have access to that opportunity. We've also seen members of our community teach each other types of languages, Java or Python or whatever that they're trying to learn. They'll say, sure, let's put together a group hangout and we'll figure that out and I'll teach you guys how to do, X, Y, Z. So there's a lot of support there, and the ability to help people progress in what they're trying to learn in computer science, even if they don't have access in their schools.
Yeah, or even share parts of their community. I know in Shiprock, New Mexico this year, we had dozens of applications all working on a specific project that they were working on to develop an app for the Navajo language to, one, allow elders in the community to both contribute to the app and get them more involved with technology, as well as teach the youth more of the Navajo language, which had been mostly largely lost after the elders that started speaking more English. And so it was a way for them to preserve their community as well as learn all of these tech skills and really get more involved with using technology inside of their own community. And seeing that is just huge, and being able to experience that just remotely and be able to tap in, offer resources, offer advice, see what they're able to do, get inspired by it, is just such a huge thing. And I think next we wanted to just to look.
I was going to say, stop right there.
Yeah,
No. Go to the next slide.
Sure.
I'm going to make them wake up a little bit.
Sure.
Okay?
I love that.
All right. So we're going to check some facts about women and minorities in computer science. So how many women are in the workforce? What percentage of the workforce is female? Does anybody know? Any guesses? Overall workforce, yes, sir. 45%, okay. And how many women do we think are in computer science related fields? Under 20, what did you say? Less than 10%? Okay, all right. Should we show them? So 57%, so not so far off, of professionals in the US are currently in the work. Yes, I can speak this evening. It's been a long day for all of us. 57% of the workforce are women, and 26% are in computing careers, and only 17% are at Fortune 500, in leadership positions. Yeah, so, and then we've got a little bit more information about the number. So we've got all of these women that are going in to get bachelor's degrees. Only 19% are actually coming out with computer science related.
Which is just a huge statistic. 57% of all those who are pursuing a bachelor degree are women. And so you have colleges with the vast majority of women, but only 19% are those in computer science. And if you go into what NCWIT's research has done, they've seen that a lot of that impact isn't when we see, why did you drop out of computer science? We normally see, at least at the entry point, that it's a little bit more equal. It's about 40-60. Were you not interested? Was it too difficult? They never say that. What they always say is that they lacked a community. A lot of their professors were men. A lot of their fellow students were men. And they felt a little bit isolated being the only girls in their computing class, or just not being able to get the resources they need. And so that's why we have the community here to offer that support, to be able to reach out to one another. And to see that that persists. 26% of all professional professions in computing are held by women. It's not getting that much better. You always hear this narrative that, oh, if you're a woman studying computer science, you don't have a problem. You're going to get a job. That's not what we're seeing in terms of the data or the national statistics, and seeing that a lot of times they leave this profession because it is a male-dominated profession, that they don't have that opportunity to really be able to express themselves in a way that they want to, and they leave for a different profession. And so this is something we're seeing system-wide, systematically, that it is really impacting women at large.
I think the most shocking stat on this page for me is in 1985, 37% of the bachelor's degrees were women in computer science, and we're now at 19%. Now we could ask, is it about the number of people that are going for bachelor's degree and that's why that's changed? Maybe that's a little bit of it. But I think regardless, we're seeing less women go into these fields, and I think that's something for us all to think about. On top of that, we know from the Department of Labor that by 2020, we're only going to be filling 1/3 of the computer science and technology related jobs, period, by men or women in this country. And so let's think about what that means to our country about innovation and cybersecurity and all of those things. And so programs like this are so important to have you guys thinking about this, and for you guys to continue the advocacy, I know you all do, to get more kids involved in these types of programs and careers.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a little bit more. So yeah, and then it breaks down a little bit further. So we saw that 26% of the computing workforce were women in 2017, but when we start looking at the racial breakdown, it gets a lot more depressing. 3% of computing workforce were African American women, 5% were Asian women, and only 1% were Hispanic women in 2017. So we see a lot of not only that gender gap, but a racial gap as well in tech. And so what NCWIT does is we don't just focus on one part of the problem. As I said, we'd make sure that all of our research is inclusive and environment, and that it makes sure that everyone's in this inclusion. So that means not only do we fight for gender equity, we also look at the racial breakdown as well, and ensure that not only women are promoted, but women of color, and are really making sure that they're part of the community that are building tech. Because as Kate mentioned, it impacts the technology that we're developing. The telecom industry completely missed 50% of the population that would be using phones and being able to interact with a voice recorder because they didn't have any women on the team. Representation matters. It matters to have a diverse team, because the outcome that you have, the research that we've seen, will make it more successful, more inclusive, and more attention will be paid attention to all of the team members. And that's really important, to make sure that everyone is adequately represented in tech, and that we focus on everyone to make sure that it's an inclusive environment.
Well, and we also know that those diverse teams and those with women in leadership positions tend to be more productive and tend to be more bring in more revenue for companies. And so it's really in companies' best interests as well to make sure they have diverse teams and that they're also including women in their leadership roles.
So what are we doing about it? You've heard some statistics that maybe are not the best, but what are we doing to help change it? So one, I'll reference it again, and I'll keep referencing it, because it's a huge, huge, huge part of this, is building a community. And what I mean by that is not just joining the secret Facebook group and sending likes. I mean also reaching out to your community. We have former AIC award recipients here. Summer today was doing better than I was in the booth, telling information about NCWIT, getting more information, getting excited, getting girls to come over and getting them involved. That's one of the most powerful things you can do, is not only, pursue your interest, get into computing, but bring your friend as well. A lot of times, I know in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. What I was good at, what people suggested in front of me were a lot of the things I tried. What my friends were doing were a lot of the things I tried. So making sure that you not only pursue this, but encourage your friends to. Say, hey, there's a lot of different computing different things that you can go into. Computing is basically required for every industry at this point. We have a great poster at our booth, which come to it. We're delightful people. I really encourage it. But it shows all the different fields that you can go into, from CS art to health and wellness to sports and CS. CS can go into every single company. Most places have a tech team, a website, some sort of data analytics that they have to get into. And so having those tech skills can be huge for your future employment and flexibility. I mentioned Southern Utah as an example of a place that really pushes out and makes sure that there's all women, no matter how rural, no matter how remote, feels connected. And a lot of that is because there's a lot of interest, because a lot of them want to be working in those rural communities, and computer science allows them to work at home. That flexibility is huge for people, and being able to say, well, maybe I want to start a family, but I also want to have the ability to have my own income, be able to contribute in the workforce. Computer science offers a lot of those opportunities. So getting in this community, reaching out to others, continuing to build it, recognizing that you're part of something larger is huge, huge, huge in making sure that we continue growing these communities.
So are you a first-year awardee? You just were awarded. Okay, so I'm going to go to Summer for this because I know that she's already experienced this. But do you want to share anything about how the community has helped you individually? Because you've been in it for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, so this is my second year with NCWIT. I had heard about it because a friend of mine who was on the team had won the local award her freshman year. So I applied for the award my sophomore year, and at that point I wasn't really into the programming scene on my team. I didn't really feel encouraged about it, but after receiving the award and seeing the affirmation that I was actually good at computer science, or at least somewhat good, I guess, then that actually propelled me to be more involved in my team's programming, and I actually helped them create a cool dashboard, and it was really awesome experience that I wouldn't have been encouraged to pursue had it not been for my first experience with NCWIT. And then this year I applied again, and I got to expand my horizons, being the other national award winners and learning more about cool opportunities that go on around the nation, as well as internships and hackathons. And it's just been a really cool experience getting to know all these people from around the nation.
Have you asked questions in the community at all, and have they responded?
Oh yes, it was one of my first questions. I want to start a hackathon, and I wasn't quite sure how to do it. So I asked a question, and I said, how would you go about doing this? I'm just like a sophomore in high school, and I'm a junior now, by the way. Okay. Yeah. So, and they answered my question. They said, first do a small event. Don't try to do anything too big. So they gave me good advice about how to just manage it and go up slowly and doing those types of things. So that was really good.
Thank you. We keep putting her on the spot, and she does great, so we'll probably keep doing it. Sorry. And the other things that we see in that community is we hear a lot of young women asking about internships and what it's like to work at different companies and what's your experience at different schools, or I've got a job offer, and how do I know if this is a good salary, or how do I negotiate it? Can I negotiate an internship salary? Can I ask for more time on my technical piece? What's an interview going to look like anyway? Those are all the types of questions we see, along with the general, like, hey, I'm just having a bad day. Somebody put a great meme up and make me happy. And there's a lot of splinter groups from that based on different interests as well. So like we said, one of the best hands up I think I've ever seen about supporting women in a really productive and positive way. And it's great to see that grow as we've gotten our alum that are also now in careers as well and that can support on that side. Because John talks really slow.
I talk really, really, really slowly, so I understand if you missed any of it. No? Okay. So what else are we doing? We also have a lot of specific programs. Kate mentioned a little bit about Aspire IT. One that's doing really well right now and we'd love to promote is our Tecnolochicas program. This was a program that was actually named by the community. We wanted to have a Latina-specific program that really reached out to the Hispanic community and promoted more Latinas to get involved in tech. And we were coming with a bunch of different names, and to be honest, all of them were terrible. And we put it out to the community, and they came out with Tecnolochicas, and it went huge. It was such a good name that we then actually partnered with the Telenovisa Foundation, Eva Longoria, to really promote this and get more visibility for women in tech. And so just a few of the highlights from that. Oh, whoops. Oh, okay. I'll show that video in just a moment. But it's one of the greatest ways to make sure that you see some visibility because, as I mentioned, representation matters. And so what we do is a lot of the Tecnolochicas will come to events, they'll come to even your school, they'll come to AIC award events, and show to the women in the classroom, hey, no, there are Latinas in tech. We do exist. I know we saw 1%, but we're making sure that this community is visible, that they are encouraging the next generation to succeed, and really making sure that they say, hey, you know, you can visualize yourself in this role. If there's someone here that is a Latina that's in tech and really getting them forward. So just one of our just many programs that we've been able to highlight some of that racial gap as well.
And every year we select a new cohort of Tecnolochicas to serve as ambassadors for us around the country. So if you have a Latina background, I encourage you to get on the website, take a look. We just selected our 3.0 cohort, so they'll start doing applications pretty soon. It's a video submission. I know that's going to scare all of you off, but definitely look at it and share it with your friends as well. We get a lot of cool opportunities to speak and learn about public speaking and get to tour around your state and sometimes the country too.
Okay. I'm going to show this video just real quick. It's some of our Tecnolochicas.
Welcome you to Google and be here to celebrate the launch of Tecnolochicas 2.0 campaign. Yay! Woo-hoo!
Sorry.
Just put the mic next to the speaker.
Oh, just like that.
We need more students pursuing an education in computer science, particularly girls and minorities who have historically been underrepresented. Someone once told me, if you can see it, you can be it. Now young Latinas can see it. The next generation of Latinas, the next young tech innovator.
And so one of the things that I think we're so proud of at Univision is that we can open the doors and really work with partners like Televisa, like Insiwit, and others to open those doors to show Latinos that there are ways to move forward with various opportunities. Because think about it, the people watching Univision, the people watching Televisa, it's our mothers, it's our grandmothers, and they're seeing examples of what their daughters and granddaughters can be. And that means so much.
Today is a really big honor for me to specifically focus on Latinas. My foundation focuses on helping Latinas improve their lives. I want all of you young people here to listen and to learn from the women and learn from their experiences. And then I encourage you, as you succeed in your careers, as you will, that you find a conference like this, you find an event like this, and you get on the panel. And you tell somebody else, you can do it. Look what I did. You're going to be successful just like me. What do you think was the key to your success?
What I love about it is to be able to create something.
My ideas, my creativity, the things that I came up with, that gave me this sense of power to create something real that didn't exist before. I think I had so much passion.
Women are better, more effective legislators. Don't discount yourself and think that you can't do something or computing skills is something that you can't learn, because you can.
Think more about what problem you want to solve in the world.
You need to be able to see and think what you want to create before actually deciding that you want to become a software engineer or a CS professional.
Which advice would you give to your younger self?
Find that something that makes you tick and just go for it. Try it. If I did it, all of us did it, you can do it as well.
Make mistakes, break something, let's put it back together. And when we are breaking something, making mistakes, we learn new things. Express ourselves. It allows us to represent ourselves in our whole life. additions and communities in a bigger scale.
Making your own rules and going for what you want to do.
It's very rewarding for me not to only have an exciting job at work, but to know I'm making a real difference in day-to-day lives.
We're providing connectivity to be able to call your parents, your kids, people, your family across the world.
My job is uncover all of these business opportunities. It is what actually motivates me to come to work every day.
It's incredibly rewarding is to be able, when we have a mission that is bigger than me, bigger than this nation, bigger than the world, because it is universal.
The worst thing they're going to do is say no, and if you keep trying and trying, you're going to get there.
I just want to show girls that that's a possibility and encourage them and empower them to do everything they want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, it's a great program. So yeah, that is a little bit of our Tecno Chicas program to really show that we, to do a little bit of highlighting of just some of the programs that we're able to really bring forward and bring a little bit more attention to. Because as they said, you know, it's huge. Yeah, having their grandmothers, their mothers, their daughters, all seeing examples of women in tech in the media that they consume. Because that's a lot of the times. I know that I wanted to become involved with social justice because some of the television shows that I've watched, right? We are what we consume. And so making sure that those are positive representation of women, especially women of color in media, have been a huge part of what we've been doing in terms of our Tecno Chicas program. I didn't know if you wanted to go over to Aspire IT.
Since I populated this all with Aspire IT photos, because that's what was on my computer last night when John asked me to do the slide. So yeah, it's the Aspire IT program. These are some of the photos that we've taken the last couple of years of the girls doing these activities. And so you can see they're hands-on, they're engaging. We want girls to understand how technology can be used to solve problems. We have one young lady that is doing a e-fabrics, e-textiles program where they're, you know, putting LEDs and things like that into shirts and stuff like that, learning how to program through Arduinos. And we have groups that are building computers out of Raspberry Pis and learning how to program them and doing makey-makeys and doing things like app development and whatnot. So, but we also are always looking for how do we reach out to those girls that don't have access and have those opportunities. And so one of the stories I wanted to share today is we had two groups that wanted to do this. One was in the Virgin Islands, and one is in Alaska, in Homer, Alaska. And so we had a group come to us last year and say, we want to do this program in the Virgin Islands. The partner did, and actually John is our regional manager for down there, but she needed a leader. And somehow, without our even knowing it, she connected with one of our leaders on the mainland. And so I get an application that included a flight to Virgin Islands. And we looked at that and we thought, we wonder if, we've never really done that before. But we decided to use it as a pilot, because they didn't have the infrastructure in the Virgin Islands and the community built there yet to have those programs, to teach those skills, to get them to apply for our awards and to do those programs. And so we said, all right, fine, we'll pay for the flight for you to the Virgin Islands and teach this program for a week. So she did, and it was successful. And this year we got 2 applications from Puerto Rico and also with the Virgin Islands, working with the same group we had last year. So they're continuing to sustain that. The other group that applied is a group of awardees from the last couple of years that are coming together to do that program. And so we're like, okay, that was successful in one place. Where are we going to do it next? Well, Homer, Alaska showed up and said, well, we really want to bring programming through our library to the girls in our community, because it's also a way that they can get jobs that might be allowing them to stay here in the Alaskan area, because they can do it telecommuting and things like that. And they need these skill sets, you know, to be successful citizens. And so we're doing the same thing where we're taking a couple of our leaders. They're actually going to teach a group of high schoolers virtually and set up the program with them virtually. And then we're going to fly them up to Alaska to present the program for a week, with the intent that those high school girls will apply for the Aspirations Award next year and then become part of the community and then apply for Aspire IT funds to continue that program up there. So, you know, there are ways to get into these communities that don't have access. You guys have the skill sets, you guys have the passion, you guys have the knowledge. You just have to think outside the box about how you make that happen. And sometimes it's not you're doing it all the time, but it's teaching those skills and supporting them, you know, remotely to make those successful pieces happen.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, all of our programs are evaluated and seen, are they working? Aspire IT is one of those programs that is making some of the biggest impact in systematic change that we possibly have. Kate's given you just a few examples, but I know one that's near and dear to my heart is one in Shiprock, New Mexico. They have a program called Cultivating Coders there. And it was on the Navajo reservation, and before that they had very little, if any, computer science in any of the classrooms there, but they started an after-school program called Cultivating Coders, and within a few years, and they had an intensive summer program, they had over 50 students involved with that, and we got more applicants from Shiprock, New Mexico this year than we did from Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is just a testament to how powerful these things can do. Because not only are you sharing this information, but you're sharing it among the women inside of your community and saying, hey, like this is something that really excited me. This is something that got me passionate. This is something that really moved me, and it helps get them skills and involved in more industries than they're able to. Now that Cultivating Coders has been on for a few years, a few of them are already working for Apple and Microsoft because they can stay on the Navajo reservation. They just need an internet connection, and they can be a programmer there. They can be a programmer in the Bay Area. They can be a programmer anywhere. And so this is a really big testament to showing how much power all of you have, how much power that you can wield by just getting your friends a little bit more into it. We have funding available for any AIC award recipient or anyone in the community for this, and we really want to help get this program off the ground, allow you to reach out into your community and teach some of those computing concepts. If you're someone who is interested, even if it's, I know we've had some beautiful camps around Arduinos and just showing people how exciting Arduinos can be. We've got some great ones around Raspberry Pi, some that have completely been created by their own. We've had robotics teams that are competing here today, all women's robotics teams that are really making a mark in their own communities.
Yeah, and those robotics teams, what they're using our Aspire IT funds for are for outreach into their community to help promote the sustainability of their teams for the most part. So briefly, the requirements, our applications will open on May 1st for our next round of funding. If you're interested, you can stop by and chat with us. You have to serve at least 10 girls, at least 12 hours of programming. And again, you have to first be part of the community, so apply for the high school award, or if you're in college, apply to join us through the collegiate entry point. So Alyssa, do you want to come up and tell us a little bit about your journey and why you decided to apply for Aspire IT? And, or I'm sorry, you were Aspirations Award winner. We're going to get you into Aspire IT.
Yeah. Oh, I actually am planning on applying. But yeah.
Nice.
So I guess why I decided to apply is because one of my friends was an Aspirations in Computing National Honorable Mention last year, and I went to the award ceremony, and I was like, hey, like this sounds like stuff that like I'm already doing and like I want to continue doing, because like our team tries to do a lot of stuff to help gender diversity in STEM. And I was looking at the Aspire IT stuff, and I was like, hey, this sounds like something that like we can use to fund our stuff that we're already doing, because we've done in the past camps, like girls programming summer camps and like girls computer-aided design classes. And I don't know, I just thought that that was really cool, and I didn't know that this existed at all until like my friend told me about it. And I've only been on the Facebook group for like a couple of months, but it's already really good, because then you like see that like you're not the only one where like you feel a little bit uncomfortable with something that's happening, or like if someone is like, hey, I'm like hosting a hackathon, this is where it is, you can see like people in your area who are doing stuff like that. And it's just really cool to see that there are so many people, because sometimes you can feel kind of alone. Yeah.
Where are you from?
Eugene, Oregon.
Nice. Oh, you're one of Kathy Sweeter's kids. So, yeah, I mean, that says it all, right?
No, absolutely.
Share your experiences, look at these awards, talk about it, and yeah, the resources are here and available for you.
And just for some logistical details, for anyone who's not part of the AIC community, if you're in high school, it's, the easiest way to get in is through through our Aspirations in Computing Award application. It opens up September 1st, normally closes in the first week of November, so you got about 2 months to do it. Don't wait until the last minute, otherwise you'll just get some annoying emails from me.
And how long does it take you to actually fill out that application?
A couple
of hours. There's a couple of essays in there, which often can be recycled into your college applications, right?
And
yeah, so.
What we're looking for in those applications is not a mythological high school student who's cured 7 diseases. We're not looking for that high school student that just already stands up. We're looking for people to have aspirations in computing. Do you have your passion? A lot of the questions that we ask are, how did your interest start in computing? What's your career path? What would you like to do with in your career? What's a problem that you would like to solve using computing and technology? And so a lot of it is about what you want to do with it, and then we really try to give you that tools. We try to equip you with those resources to make sure that those aspirations happen. As I mentioned, we have job opportunities that are only available to some AIC award recipients. We have internships that are available to only AIC award recipients. Apple each year has specifically applications for anyone in the aspirations and computing community. We have scholarships that are only available to you as an aspirations and award recipient. I know NCWIT's actually housed out of Boulder at the University of Colorado Boulder's campus. And if you go there, you get an automatic $1,000 each every year, and then $2,000 that you're able to apply for on top of that. So you're able to get $12,000 just being in this community alone, and that's just one example out of 500. We work with universities all throughout every single state and every single community, and it's to help build that technical women capacity, just because we want to make sure you have those networking opportunities. You have an advocate that can really help you through this process, because it's difficult. It is. It's difficult to figure out exactly, okay, I'm interested in computing. How do I get into college now and get money for college and get financial resources? Sometimes it's not on your plate of network connections. Maybe your parents weren't involved in computing or any sort of technology. I know mine wasn't. I had to teach my mom to send an attachment the other day in an email that took about an hour, and it was, just showed me like, oh my gosh, like, and I feel like I'm going to be worse when I'm that age in terms of being crippled by technology. But I think that you having those resources and having those advocacy and making sure that you're in that community of women is huge for making sure that, no, this is what I want my life to look like. Here's what my passions and aspirations are. Tell us that, and we're going to help you do it.
So we're going to open it up for questions and to come up and chat with us if you want as well. And the last thing we'll leave you with is that all the young women we see in this room, you're invited to join us tomorrow morning for breakfast at 8:30 in 381B. Get a chance to talk with some more of our alums who've been through the program and ask additional questions if you want, and play some Jenga early in the morning. That should be amusing, right? So anybody got questions they'd like to ask?
Also, we have a ton of resources over here, so if you want to grab anything about the high school award or NCWIT in general, there's a lot of good pages. If you want to give any of the men on your team how to be a male advocate, number one is listening, so you can just give that to them and say like, hey, read this, come talk to me.
And John's happy to come by your pit and do
I'm
a pitch
happy
about
to
that
come
as
by.
well. Just leave your pit number and he'll be by.
Give them Male Advocacy 101. I'm happy to do it.
So for students who don't learn about the award in time or who apply for the award but don't win it, is there any way that they can still be supported by the NCWIT community?
So the way that happens is that when you get into college, if you're majoring or minoring in a computer science related field, which we broadly define to include a lot of engineering, because somebody's going to build the tech that others are then going to program, correct? You can simply fill out a form and get into that community that way. But I have to tell you, we recognize over 3,000 young women every year, and our goal is really to recognize as many women as we can to get them into that community, because it's all about that supportive community and what we know it can give to kids. So apply. Your chances are fairly good. A lot of it depends on where you live, though, too.
Yeah,
you know, but
there's some competitive areas,
Yep.
but I would say being part of FIRST Robotics gives you, put that in your application. Mention that I went to the World Championship here in Houston, and I think that's a really big thing for our reviewers to say, like, oh, wow, they're really involved not only in computing and technology, but what's happening currently, especially in FIRST Robotics. So anyone in this room is already a very, very well-qualified applicant.
And the resources that are up here, we've got tons of them on our website. They're all free of charge that you can download, you can print out. And so there's a lot of great resources there as well. And start your own communities as well with those on your robotics teams. Or I know there's another meetup for women tomorrow, and so talk with them about starting a Facebook community as well. There's lots of ways to get support and be supported. But yeah, apply for the award, and that's a great first step. Okay? Other questions? All right, well, John, I will be up here to answer questions if you have individual ones you want to come chat with us about because you're too shy to ask them in the big group. And also resources, please come check them out. A lot of the graphics you saw in here, I saw people taking pictures. We also have them on some of the handouts that talk about our program. If you are in affinity alliances, so like a Society of Women Engineers or Women in Technology, or you're with companies, come talk to us. We can tell you more about how we support those groups as well. So thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.